The 2025 F1 season was one of the best ones, or at least it was the most roller coastery season. A year that promised us the biggest transfer in history, a grid full of teenagers, and so much drama. It was the year we finally saw Lewis Hamilton trade his silver arrows for a bowl of pasta, and the year Red Bull decided their second seat was actually a game of musical chairs, and gave it to a guy whose dream was to open a restaurant, rather than winning a world championship. I am about to recap 24 races of pure adrenaline, heartbreak, and questionable stewarding decisions into one video. Buckle up, grab your chips, because this is the 2025 Formula One season summed up. The year started not on the track but in the rumors. We all knew it was coming, but seeing Lewis Hamilton walk into the paddock wearing pure scarlet red for the first time, it broke the internet. The Tifosi were crying, Mercedes fans were crying, and Carlos Sainz was just trying to find a decent espresso machine at Williams. Speaking of Williams, they entered 2025 with one of the most handsome driver lineup in history, Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz. The team principal promised big things, mostly that the car would actually have a chassis this time. Meanwhile, at Red Bull, the drama started early. After a very Max carried the team 2024, Checo Perez was out. In came the young boy, Liam Lawson, ready to prove he was the chosen one. Max Verstappen was just busy sim racing until 4 a.m., probably winning championships in iRacing, while the rest of the grid was sleeping. And let's not forget the rookies. We had Kimi Antonelli at Mercedes. No pressure, kid. You're just replacing a 7-time world champion. Jack Doohan at Alpine, Ollie Bearman at Haas, and Gabriel Bortoleto at Sauber. The 2025 Formula One season felt less like a professional sporting championship and more like a high-octane fever dream. The season kicked off in Melbourne, Australia at the iconic Albert Park circuit. This was Oscar Piastri's home turf, and the atmosphere was nothing short of manic. The local hero was under immense pressure, but the qualifying session delivered an unexpected twist when his teammate Lando Norris snatched a shock pole position. However, the qualifying headlines were stolen by Jack Doohan. The Alpine rookie, eager to impress on home soil, unfortunately, found the barriers, continuing what fans have come to call the glorious Alpine tradition of chaotic and unpredictable race weekends. When the race began, the carnage was immediate and unforgiving. The retirement list read like a mid-season casualty report. Gabriel Bortoleto, Liam Lawson, Carlos Sainz, Isaac Hadjar, and the veteran Papa Fernando Alonso were all forced into early DNFs. Amidst the debris, Piastri found himself mowing the grass at one point, a mistake that cost him the lead to Norris. Meanwhile, Nico Hülkenberg put on a clinical display of racecraft, climbing a staggering 10 positions from his starting slot. The breakout star of the day, however, was Kimi Antonelli. Our Italian Senna started a lowly P16 but carved through the field with surgical precision to finish P4, crossing the line just behind George Russell. But the real headline was Lewis Hamilton. Making his debut in the iconic Ferrari red, Hamilton spent the afternoon battling a difficult car. He fought tooth and nail but could only manage a disappointing P10. Adding insult to injury, the Ferrari pit crew provided some accidental comedy, dropping genius bangers over the radio such as "It must be the water" to explain the performance gap. Lando Norris secured the win, but the mood in the Red Bull garage was dark. Liam Lawson, in the second Red Bull seat, recorded a DNF. The circus moved to Shanghai and Suzuka, where the season's narrative began to get spicy. In China, the Ferrari fans, the Tifosi, saw a glimmer of hope when Lewis Hamilton took a spectacular win in the sprint race. That hope was short-lived, however, as Hamilton eventually crashed out in the main event. Liam Lawson continued to struggle, citing car balance issues as he yelled over the radio, ultimately finishing outside the points in P12. Oscar Piastri claimed the victory in China for McLaren, followed closely by Lando Norris and George "Woody" Russell. The real shocker, however, was the double DNF for Ferrari. The next year is our year memes were revived in full force. By the time the paddock arrived in Japan, the rumors regarding the Red Bull second seat had reached a boiling point. Red Bull, showing their trademark patience, decided that 2 races were enough for Lawson. Breaking news hit the wire. Lawson was demoted back to Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, and Yuki Tsunoda was promoted to the main Red Bull squad just in time for his home race. Suzuka was electric. Max Verstappen reclaimed his dominance, taking pole position by a margin that left the rest of the field demoralized. A nervous Yuki Tsunoda lined up in the Red Bull, while further down the grid, the little brother of the narrative started P14 and finished P12, a performance described as absolute cinema. While Yuki dealt with the physical and mental intensity of the race and some internal cockpit issues, Verstappen cruised to a victory. Lando Norris was left crying in P2, with Piastri taking P3. The Red Bull second seat curse was now officially Yuki's burden to carry. As the season hit the Middle East, the Mercedes W16 finally showed signs of life. In Bahrain, the car looked genuinely fast. Kimi Antonelli, the Wonder Kid, nearly out-qualified his teammate George Russell, missing out by a mere 0.204 seconds to take P4. However, the pressure got to the youngster in the race, and he made several errors. George Russell's reaction to the internal competition was calm and polite on the outside, but terrifyingly focused on the inside. Charles Leclerc started P3 with Piastri on pole and Lando chilling back in P6. When the race began, it was a tactical battle. Max Verstappen performed at an uncharacteristic average level. Lewis Hamilton showed his veteran grit, jumping from P9 to P5. Leclerc faltered, dropping from P2 to P4 and handing his podium spot to Russell. Oscar Piastri took the win, and Lando Norris made an impressive charge from P6 to P3, proving that the McLaren was the car to beat. In Saudi Arabia, the first cracks in the Verstappen armor appeared. Declining car performance attributed to Red Bull powertrains saw Max lose his pole position and the race win. Oscar Piastri was there to pick up the pieces, securing another win. The media immediately began churning out Oscar's championship charge articles, especially since Lando Norris was seen as underperforming with a P4 finish. Miami was a spectacle of high cringe and confusing celebrity cameos, played out on a track surface hotter than the sun. McLaren dominated the sprint, with Lando winning and Lewis taking third. But the main qualifying session flipped the script. Max took pole, with Lando and Kimi right behind him. Hamilton languished in P12. Interestingly, the Williams team showed surprising straight-line speed. Carlos Sainz, now in the Williams, qualified P6, with Alex Albon in P7. In the race, the smooth operator was dragged down to a P9 finish, but Albon excelled, improving to P5. Max Verstappen bottled the race, dropping from pole to P4, allowing the McLaren duo to take the top two spots again, followed by George Russell. Next was Imola, the home turf for Ferrari. The hills were painted red, but the team was metaphorically bleeding. Qualifying was a disaster for the prancing horse, with their cars ending up P11 and P12. The Tifosi were in despair. Max Verstappen took pole, but the race itself became a Hamilton masterclass. While Max eventually won the race after splitting the field at the start, Charles Leclerc held his nerve, and Lewis Hamilton regained his confidence. The church bells of Italy rang as Hamilton finished fourth, starting from 12th, and Leclerc finished 6th, starting from 11th. The McLarens of Lando and Oscar occupied 2nd and 3rd. In Monaco, where overtaking is usually a myth, drama struck during qualifying. George Russell's car broke down in the tunnel, triggering a safety car at the worst possible moment for Max Verstappen. Lando Norris secured pole and drove a cool, collected race to take the win, despite Charles Leclerc screaming strategy suggestions over the radio. Lewis was P5, but expectations for the Ferrari were low. Mercedes ultimately took a victory with Russell P1 and Antonelli P3, with Max sandwiched between them in P2. Lando Norris suffered a DNF, and Piastri finished PT4. In Austria, the Orange Army was ready for a Max victory, but the McLarens were rockets. A three-way fight between Max, Lando, and Charles was interrupted by the 17-year-old Kimi Antonelli. In a full Mazepin move at lap 1, Kimi took out both himself and the home hero, Max Verstappen. Miraculously, a usually fiery Max spared Kimi any major post-race retaliation. Lando took the win, with Piastri and Leclerc trailing behind at a significant distance. Lewis Hamilton finished just off the podium in P4. The return to Silverstone was a moment of history, Lewis Hamilton returning to his home track in a Ferrari. The British crowd was supportive, if confused, joking about Lewis looking like a tomato. It rained, as is tradition. Max took pole, followed by the McLarens, and Lewis in P5. In the wet, Hamilton was a beast, but he was once again thwarted by Nico Hülkenberg in the Sauber. The Hulk drove the race of his life, finishing P3 to secure his first ever podium in Formula One. The trophy, bizarrely, was made out of LEGO. Despite the toy-like award, the F1 community was overjoyed for him. Lando and Oscar took the top two spots, while Max dropped to P5. The aftermath of Silverstone was seismic. The legendary Christian Horner was sacked after 20 years and replaced by Laurent Mekies. Meanwhile, Yuki Tsunoda was struggling to keep his seat, driving recklessly and finishing last of the active runners in P15. At Spa, Max Verstappen won the sprint, but Lando Norris took pole for the main race. Oscar won the Grand Prix after overtaking his teammate, and Leclerc took P3. However, the drive of the day went to Lewis Hamilton, who started from the pit lane and fought his way up to P7. Hungary was a roller coaster. Leclerc took pole, sparking hope for a Ferrari win. But at lap 40, the Ferrari strategy bottled it. Leclerc dropped to P5 and could only recover to P4. Norris won, Piastri was P2, and Russell P3. Max Verstappen was fuming in P9. In Zandvoort, the McLarens ruined Max's homecoming. Piastri took pole, and Isaac Hadjar took a stunning P4 in qualifying. In the race, Piastri defended brilliantly to win. Max took P2, and Hadjar was promoted to P3 after Norris's engine failed. Ferrari suffered a double DNF after Hamilton and Leclerc crashed into each other. In Monza, the Tifosi hoped for a repeat of Leclerc's past glory, but it was Max Verstappen who dominated, taking pole and winning by a massive 19-second gap over Lando Norris. The McLarens took P2 and P3, leaving no podium spots for Ferrari. This win shifted the momentum back toward Max. Baku was pure chaos. Max took pole, followed by Sainz in the Williams and Lawson in the V-Carb. Piastri crashed early at turn 3, and Norris could only manage P7. Max won, Russell took P2, and Liam Lawson secured a podium for V-Carb in P3. Sainz took a historic first podium for Williams, while the Ferraris wallowed in P8 and P9. In Singapore, George Russell took pole and the win, navigating the humidity perfectly. Max was P2, Lando P3, and Piastri P4. Despite the win for Mercedes, McLaren was officially crowned 2025 Constructors' Champions based on the point gap. At the US Grand Prix in Austin, Max won the sprint and the main race by 7 seconds. Lando was P2 and Leclerc P3. Lewis Hamilton finished P4, while Sainz suffered a DNF. Max was back to his 2023 form. In Mexico, Lando took pole and won with a massive 30-second lead. Leclerc was P2, and Max fought up to P3. Oliver Bearman impressed again with a P4 finish, while Hamilton dropped to P8. Brazil brought the rain. Lando won the sprint, but qualifying was a disaster for Max, who ended up P16 while the rookie Antonelli took P2. In the race, Max produced a masterpiece, driving from the pit lane to P3. Lando won, and Kimi held on for P2. Finally, we reached Las Vegas. Lando took pole, followed by Max and Sainz. In the race, the McLarens crossed the line for a 1-2 finish, but the drama was just beginning. Both McLarens were disqualified due to excessive wear on their floor planks. This handed the win to Max Verstappen, moving him incredibly close to his 5th world title in one of the most controversial season-ending stretches in history. It was the second-last race of 2025 Qatar. Oscar won the sprint, Norris at P3 and Max at P4. Quali was similar too. Oscar took the pole and Norris P2. Max at 3.5. McLaren were trying everything too. But they completely bottled the race. Completely. They offered the lead to Max, and he won it with an 8-second gap to Oscar. Norris ended P4, and our smooth operator got his second podium for Williams at P3. That was it. Max versus Lando versus Oscar. Oscar at 392 points and Lando at 408 points. Max was at 396 points, just 12 points away from him. He was ready to hunt and retain. This was going to be absolute cinema. This is where things got interesting. This is where a comeback was possible. Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Many good memories and many bad memories. Ask Mercedes fans. The last dance of the 2025 regulations before the big 2026 change. The mood was intense. Max was focused and ready. Lando and Oscar were ready and nervous. Max took the pole in qualifying, and Lando was just behind him and Oscar at P3. Max's goal was to win the race and prevent Norris to get his hands on it. McLaren's goal, get Norris to at least P4. Race started and it was intense. Max curved his car into Norris's side, preventing him to go forward. There were changes on the leaderboard that were giving heart attacks to the fans. Max tried everything, every single attempt, every single move. He finished P1, Oscar at P2, failing to win the championship, but Lando finished P3, meaning Lando Norris won the championship with a difference of 2 points, just 2 points. If Verstappen hadn't crashed in Austria, he would have won the whole thing. But fate crowned Lando as the champion of the world, taking the #1 and champion title from Max. The 2025 season was a bridge between the Red Bull dominance of the past and the chaos of McLaren. We saw Lewis in red, we saw the rise of the rookies, and we saw Max defend his throne till the last breath, but ultimately getting defeated by fate and Lando Norris. Now we look to 2026, new engines, active aero, and Adrian Newey unleashing his final boss form at Aston Martin. If you thought this year was crazy, just wait. Cadillac and Audi will add more flavor to the whole drama. Until then, see you in 2026.